Oh, it's Tyreek, and more Tyreek. Some Tua, some comp picks,
Yes.
potentially exciting comp pick news. What else? Another award for Jason Sanders.
Yep.
What else? Some coaches might be on the way out. Not
Yep.
the one you think and maybe you hope for. The All Dolphins
Benny.
podcast episode 448. And here to talk about it all with me, once again, is Chris Perkins from the South Florida Sun Sentinel. How are you, Perk?
Oh, good, man. We're going to start off the year with Chris Greer, Mike McDaniel, and Danny Crossman, baby. Yes. Bring them all back.
Hey, you got your spoiler alert. Danny Crossman is not going anywhere. As far as we can tell, correct.
Yeah.
Since you kind of like said it like this, we'll drop a little nugget right here. One coach who could be on his way out the door is Darrell Bevel, the quarterbacks and also passing game specialist or passing game coordinator. I'm not sure the title right now. Who will be interviewing, according to Mary Kay Cabot, longtime reporter, covers the Browns, for the Browns offensive coordinator opening following the firing of former University of Miami stud quarterback Ken Dorsey. And if you're wondering what's the connection there, Darrell Bevel worked for 5 years as offensive coordinators of the Vikings with Kevin Stefanski at a time when Stefanski was an assistant to the head coach for 2 years and then assistant quarterbacks coach for 3 years. So obviously they worked together for 5 years. There's your connection. I think Bevel was fairly instrumental, along with Mike McDaniel, in Tua's ascent to the level he has reached. Wouldn't be good news if he left, but such is life in the NFL, where you're going to lose some. It's a step up, so it's not like the Dolphins can block him. I don't believe.
No, I don't think they can. My question to Darrell Bevel would be, is that a good job? It is a promotion, but is that a good job? Is that going to help your future?
Not if you quarterbacks Deshaun Watson. Remember, though, the Browns have the number 2 pick in the 2025 draft. And if you hear a lot of the reporters who cover the team or should know about these things, the feeling is that Deshaun Watson, cap hit or not, they're going quarterback. Beyond the fact that now there's a new report that came out last week, I think it was, that Deshaun Watson's having complications with his Achilles injury that might put his 2025 season in jeopardy. And I'm sure the Browns are going, oh, shame, really, it's too bad. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you do, if you're Bevel, you do still have Chubb and Jerry Jeudy, right? So Njoku, I'm not sure what that offensive line looks like. I don't recall, but you do have some talent there.
Yeah, no, the offensive line for a while was one of the best ones in the NFL.
Correct.
And then it kind of fell.
Yeah.
Partly because of injuries, partly because of the departure of Bill Callahan, who was a great offensive line coach, to join his son with the Tennessee Titans. Speaking of the Tennessee Titans, how's that for a segue?
Nice.
The Tennessee Titans, according to multiple reports, have requested permission to interview for their vacant GM job Reggie McKenzie. How is that significant for the Dolphins? Well, Reggie McKenzie, senior personnel executive with the team since 2019. And if he does wind up being hired, and Reggie McKenzie, by the way, who has spent 7 years as GM of the Raiders, was born in Tennessee, played at the University of Tennessee, so there's a local connection, along with the experience. He would fetch the Dolphins 2 compensatory picks in the 3rd round, one this year, one next year, unlike Anthony Weaver, who cannot fetch you a compensatory pick because he hasn't been on the staff for 2 years. So from my purely selfish standpoint, or from a Dolphins fan, good luck with getting that job, Reggie McKenzie.
Yeah, and look, I don't know what Reggie McKenzie or Marvin Allen has done exactly, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way at all. I mean that, the last 3 years, this franchise, it's kind of gone down as far as the personnel, the production. You did a good job in getting players, right? Where Jalen Ramsey and Bradley Chubb, I just playing style and all that kind of stuff. This team hasn't really excelled in that area. It hasn't made much progress since 2022. I don't know what Reggie McKenzie and Marvin Allen's roles have been in the front office.
Correct. And you never know when it comes to drafting a player whose signature is really on a particular pick,
right.
Because it could be like, for example, who was the biggest influencer in the decision to take Cam Smith in the second round in 2023? Because that's a bad check mark on that, or an X on that one. If you were the one who pushed for Devon Achane in the third round in 2023 as well, that's a check. That's a good pick. So when you're dealing with it, everybody in the scouting department has some input. They get together everybody's opinion, but which one has the most sway and who ultimately makes the final decision? That is generally not something that comes out until 10 years after everybody's gone and you read in a book or in an ESPN expose,
Yep. So but I mean, I like what Reggie has done overall, in Oakland and everything like that. I just don't know what he's done specifically with the Dolphins.
Correct. And you would think, I mean, his title is senior personnel executive. I don't know exactly how much weight that would carry. Probably not nearly as much as he would as GM in Tennessee. And for that job, not a bad job. You're inheriting the first overall pick. So
good job.
Correct. So we'll certainly be keeping an eye on that. We'll be keeping an eye on Anthony Weaver as well. More from the standpoint of if he leaves, he has to be replaced. Robert Saleh is a guy who comes to mind as being immediately somebody who would make sense for the Dolphins, but there's also where the 49ers are interested in hiring him for that post as well. After they fired Nick Sorensen, Weaver is going to interview or has interviewed, completed one today on a Zoom with the New Orleans Saints. He's also scheduled to interview, I believe, with the Chicago Bears. So good luck to him. He's a good dude. For him, strictly personally, I hope he gets the job. From a Dolphin standpoint, that one would hurt. Because he's a lot more impactful to the on-field product than Reggie McKenzie is at this moment, and also because he doesn't fetch you 2 third-round picks.
Yep. And let me ask you this. I asked this to David Furones yesterday on the Dolphins Deep Dive podcast.
OneSunSentinel.com. Go ahead.
SunSentinel.com. Thank you. I think the Dolphins have a good front seven coming back. Do you think it's good enough to control games and win games? We know Calais will be gone, but you'll have Zach Sealer. You'll have Chop Robinson. You'll have Chubb. You'll have Phillips. Maybe Ogba comes back. Jordan Brooks, Anthony Walker. You've got a decent front seven there.
Okay, a couple of things. Decent. It's a little thin and interior of the defensive line if Campbell doesn't come back. Number one. Number two, are we so sure that Bradley Chubb is coming back? Because the Dolphins have some salary cap issues heading into 2025. Bradley Chubb has a $29 million cap number, which is awfully high for a guy who's missed the entire season that you just finished. And I certainly could see him being one of those guys who's either going to get squeezed or released to create salary cap space. And then with him and Phillips as well, you knock on wood that either or both can come back and be the previous versions of themselves before the injuries, but those are significant injuries. And now that's 2 in a row for Phillips, Achilles, and an ACL. Are they going to be the same guys when they come back? So I think the potential is good, but I don't know that it's necessarily a lot. I don't know. My level of confidence right now would be, 6 out of 10, maybe.
I don't think, look, I think there's zero chance that both Chubb and Phillips come back to 100% next season. I think optimistically, maybe one is at 80%, the other one is at maybe 70%. But to me, you combine them with Chop, and I've said it. Look, if you get 6 sacks from Chop, 6 sacks from Phillips, and 6 sacks from Chubb, nobody's making the Pro Bowl. But you've got the beginnings of a effective pass rush. You add in like another 8 from Zach Sealer, you're doing okay. You're doing okay. That's a good start. Maybe Ogba comes back. Deshaun Hand showed you some promise. Jordan Brooks is going to be effective. I think, look, they're not going to be, Kansas City's front seven, but I think you have a chance to control games and make plays with that front seven.
Well, that's fair. By the way, that's 26 total sacks you have among those 4 guys. Again, assuming to me, I can't imagine the Chubb coming back at a $29 million cap number. I just can't.
I can't imagine them trading him for anything worthwhile because you'd have to release him or renegotiate.
Funny you should mention the word trade.
No, there's a player. There's a
working on
player
my
that works
transitions.
for.
Thank you. I've been working on my transitions. The Dolphins going to trade Tyreek Hill. Does Tyreek Hill still want to be traded? Drew Rosenhaus appeared on the Pat McAfee show live from Hard Rock Stadium, where Thursday night is one of the college football playoff semifinals between Penn State and Notre Dame. Double yuck from here. Sorry, no offense. I have to get this off my chest. If there are four programs who, if they never win or never have big success, I'm completely happy with. It's Penn State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Alabama. And I got three of those four in the Final Four. Woo!
Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
For various
you live a rough college football existence then.
Yeah, I know. And in college basketball used to be Duke or North Carolina.
Oh.
If neither of those teams wins the Final Four, it'd be a good college basketball season for me. On one of these episodes, maybe I'll go into the reasons, but it's like Barf City. Anyway, I digress.
Yes.
So Drew Rosenhaus dropped a couple of very interesting nuggets regarding Tyreek Hill. Number one being after Tyreek said on the record, I don't remember exactly the venue through which he said it, but he said he had like ligament issues with his wrist. Drew Rosenhaus said he broke his wrist in the game against, in a joint practice with the Washington Commanders. Doctors told him you should get it fixed like right now. You're going to be out for the season, but this is the best course of action for you and for your future. Tyreek said, no, I want to tough it out and play for my team. And then all the comments after the end of the regular season on that Sunday were out of frustration. But does Tyreek want to be traded? Rosenhaus said, I haven't spoken to Tyreek. I can't speak for him.
Boy,
what do we do with that?
I've told you this whole wrist injury thing. I'm just a little suspicious. And, I'm the one who asked Frank Smith and Wes Welker, is this a troll job from Tyreek? I just don't know what to think. Everything is so inconsistent where he has the bad game and he blames it on the wrist injury, but then he says he needs to practice more. And then he takes on more responsibility on the field by returning punts. Like, that's not all consistent. Like, something is missing there. And I'm not calling anybody a liar. I'm just saying that something is missing. There's an inconsistency there. And then as far as, the trade request, I think that Tyreek was speaking out of frustration. I do not think that Tyreek wants to be traded. He was forced to speak. Those were the words that came out of his mouth. He doesn't always express himself in the best way when I guess it's a stressful situation or a situation that he's uncomfortable with. Those were the words that tumbled out of his mouth. I believe Tyreek the other 10 times when he said he loves it here, his family's here, he wants to retire here, he's got a business here. So, but part of life with Tyreek is dealing with that frustration. This is not how you respond to a frustrating situation, but that's life with Tyreek. He's going to pop off sometimes. And I'll tell you this also, Poop. To me, and I don't have any sources on this or anything, I just think that when Greer and McDaniel talked to Tyreek and they said they had a good conversation with him, I could imagine that a part of that conversation was, Tyreek, next year things will be back to normal. You'll get your 1,700 yards receiving. You'll get your 170 targets. We just have to kind of figure this offense out. You're going to remain the focal point of the offense. I think that's important to Tyreek.
No, I think it is absolutely. And I think, first of all, I think somebody needs a documentarian, Billy Corbin, maybe, I don't know, somebody needs to do a 30 for 30 on Tyreek's 2024. I mean, because that was some crazy stuff all around. No, but I agree with you that Tyreek wants to be the focal. First of all, he wants his money.
Yes.
And it's not like the Dolphins are not having bent over backwards for him at every turn.
Right.
He wants to be the focal point of the offense. Yep. And again, as I mentioned earlier, he still led the team in targets, even though it wasn't as much as it was in the past. Because that playoff thing that Dolphins didn't make the playoffs, so I'm going to throw a tantrum. It's like, it's the first time in 10 years you don't make the playoffs. Like, seriously, deal with it.
Right.
Go ask those guys who played on those really good players who played on bad teams and never make the playoffs. So that one I have a hard time with. The whole thing for me is, unless, like, if Tyreek wants out, that's an issue. I don't know why he would want out.
Right.
When again the Dolphins have kowtowed to him so much,
Yeah.
and the Dolphins are much better with Tyreek than they
Yes.
are without him.
Yes.
The headaches included.
Yes.
Even though you would like for him to, like, dude, sorry for the lack of crude term, but grow up a little bit.
Right.
Because he's their best offensive player, and I don't think there's a close second. And the other issue is, look at the national outlets who are doing proposed trades if the Dolphins do trade Tyreek Hill. The best I've seen was a second-round pick from the Chargers that they were suggesting, and I can't for a second imagine Jim Harbaugh would want to bring in Tyreek Hill. That's just me.
No.
And then the rest is like a third-round pick. I saw like a third and a fifth and all that. I mean, and plus you're eating cap space on top of it. So exactly why would you trade Tyreek unless it's completely untenable a situation with the Dolphins?
Yep. I think Tyreek is going to be here, and I think that provided he's the focal point of the offense, he will be happy to be here. Now, I could see another problem, another I'm out post-game situation. If he's not the focal point and the Dolphins start, say, 1-2, 1-3, that would be bad news. But I think that to settle Tyreek down, you've almost certainly, from what I know of Tyreek in 3 seasons, you've almost certainly got to tell him you're going to get back to being the focal point. You're going to be doing your touchdown sellies, and you're going to be popular, and the social media likes, and you're going to be the hit of the league once again. Just hang with us. I don't know of anything else that would have worked in that situation for Greer and McDaniel.
Yeah, and for anybody who's going to throw out the idea, like, my Lord, is this guy high maintenance? Yep. But you kind of knew that when you made the trade to acquire him. And it wasn't a major problem when he was putting up those ridiculous numbers in 2022 and 2023, winning team MVP both times and being voted as the number 1 player in that top 100 list, which again is voted on in December. So that's why he wasn't Patrick Mahomes. Like this year, think of the players who would get in now. I'm going to guess number 1 probably going to be either Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen would be one of those 2 guys. Regardless of whether if either of them flops in the playoffs, and you're going to be like, how can he be number 1? Because it's already been voted on. Got another one.
A process that Calais Campbell hates, by the way. I'm gonna write that story. I asked him about he loves the Pro Bowl voting. He hates the top 100 voting process. He said he had to chase down one of the people from the NFL who was sent there the NFL sends 2 kind of monitors to the locker room, and Calais said he had to chase down one of them to give them his ballot. That they were like, yeah, here's your ballot, see ya.
Interesting.
So,
and we say this every year. It's one of those where it makes for good television. It's like they do it in a series. I think it used to be like 10 parts. I think they cut it down, but
I think it's 5, but whatever.
Take it for what it's worth. And the Pro Bowl also has its shortcomings.
Yes.
By the way, another nugget that Drew Rosenhaus dropped: Tyreek's second alternate to the Pro Bowl. I'm not sure he even should be that high, but that's whoops. Did I say that? Did I say that out loud?
I didn't hear anything.
Okay, good. I was worried. Sometimes I say things I shouldn't be saying.
That's right. Well, we'll see. The wrist surgery will probably keep him out, though.
Oh, there you go. So it wouldn't be an issue.
Yes.
Okay, some news that we didn't discuss Tuesday. I had Dave on. Dave Hyde was the guest, and we did it before this came out. The Dolphins did their annual ritual of signing players to future contracts.
Yep.
This prevents them. These are usually players who finish the season on the practice squad. This keeps them from negotiating with any other team. They don't count on the salary cap at this point. You even see teams in the playoffs. The Commanders signed like 3 guys to their future contract. Here's what stood out to me. Wasn't who they signed, was who they didn't sign of the practice squad players. And I'm talking about Skylar Thompson.
Yep.
Which basically means now he is free in the wind. He can go sign with anybody. He's not under contract with anybody, which basically, for the 8th time that we've said this, Dolphins have closed the door and finally decided, well, maybe he ain't the guy.
I saw him Monday.
Watch the Dolphins sign him tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. I saw him Monday in the locker room, and I didn't get a chance to go over and chat with him. But I was just thinking this is the last time I'll see Skylar Thompson probably in this locker room, not in the league, but in this locker room. Yeah, you know that experiment is done. I don't see how the team would have any confidence in him. I don't see how Mike McDaniel could sell it in that locker room that this guy is going to lead you. It's good luck to Skylar. He's a good guy. I wish him well.
No, I agree, and it would be one of those where I cannot fathom why he would want to come back.
Correct.
Like, I'll be honest with you. There's another name that stands out. Is Nick Needham was not re-signed.
Right, that was significant. I thought that was significant because Nick is a guy that I just couldn't figure out this year that you cross-trained him at corner and safety. But you were playing Saran Neal in there at corner, and Elijah Campbell got a lot more safety looks. Marcus May was getting looks at safety before you released him. Nick Needham didn't get in on special teams. I couldn't figure that one out.
No, and there's a guy who's been, and by the way, for those wondering, as far as I can tell, there is no restriction as far as the amount of experience to sign those future contracts, because the Denver Broncos signed Philip Dorsett to one of those, and he was an 8-year veteran. The former wide receiver. This was last year. So that certainly was significant. To be honest with you, it surprised me he re-signed with the Dolphins last year as a UFA, considering that his role had kind of diminished after he actually was a starter for a couple of years. So the players, because I can hear you guys going right now, stop telling us who didn't sign. Tell us who signed. Here we go. 12 players. Yeah. Wide receiver, Tariq Black. Linebacker, William Bradley King. Safety, Jordan Colbert. Defensive tackle, Neil Farrell. Tackle, Ryan Hayes. Offensive lineman, Jason Hines. Linebacker, Daquan Jackson. Cornerback, Isaiah Johnson. Cornerback, Jason Maitre. Tackle, Baron Matos. Linebacker, Derek McClendon. And tight end, Hayden Rucci, the son of the former New England Patriots offensive lineman, Todd Rucci.
Hey, what happened to they had that linebacker, the tall kid, Brown. Didn't he tear up his knee during training camp? What happened to him?
Cam Brown.
Clearly,
my friend, you did not check out Miami Dolphins on SI.com today because I had my updated end of the season roster complete with contract status and list of pending UFAs, and you would have seen that Cam Brown is on the roster, finished the season, spent the entire season on IR.
Right.
But he is a pending UFA because he signed a 1-year contract last year. And those don't fold if you're on IR. If you're on IR, it's like you played the whole year. I liked him in training camp. I thought there was something there.
Me too. That's And I did see your site, but I did not click on that story. So yes, I clicked on your Tyreek Hill. I clicked on a couple of others, but I did not click on that one. You caught me. I exposed myself there.
It's all good, my friend. It's all good.
Yep.
So now the Dolphins, I guess the next order of business, well, they'll be at the Senior Bowl in a couple of weeks. Before then, there could be changes to the coaching staff. Obviously, if Bevell leaves, if Anthony Weaver leaves. And do you see anybody on the staff, if Weaver winds up leaving, who strikes you as a good candidate to take over as DC?
No, I think it's a pretty young and inexperienced defensive staff off the top of my head. Austin Clark, I don't think he's ready. I don't think Arujo and from the backfield is ready. What's the linebackers coach? Joe Barry.
Barry he's got DC experience.
So. He's got DC experience. I don't know that. And they did that. That's actually a team strength, I think, or a strength of the D. It did well. They played well. David Long notwithstanding. I don't see anybody on staff. I don't. But I always say this. I didn't see Dan Campbell. I was surprised he went from tight ends coach to interim head coach. So I don't know.
And see where that got him, huh?
Yeah.
So I have an idea. I think the Dolphins should call the Philadelphia Eagles and see if they can work out a trade to bring back Vic Fangio. I'm joking. I kid. Quick side note here. Do you have any hot takes in terms of predictions for this weekend's games?
No, I don't. I'll just watch and see what happens. I don't think that the Dolphins could beat any of the teams that are in the playoffs if
Wow.
they're. I don't. Maybe if they were at home, they could take out Houston. But I I guess Denver, if they're at home, I guess Denver plays defense and defense travels. But I just that's probably the thing with me is that last year I thought, if the Dolphins would have gotten, say, Pittsburgh at home, okay, you can win that game in the playoffs. But this year, I just maybe Houston, who has already beaten you, I just don't think they belong in the playoffs this year. That's probably my opening weekend observation.
Week. I'm sorry. What?
As if the 8-9 record wasn't a tip off.
See, there you go. No, yeah, no. You mentioned Houston. It's like, and I'm going here, going, yeah, Dolphins could beat them because this is not a great Houston team.
It's not.
That spanked the Dolphins, and part of it was the fact the Dolphins had to start Patrick Paul and Jackson Carman,
Yep.
who caught a straight from Chris Greer during the press conference on Tuesday at tackle, and then Tua had a really rough game because the defense played great in that game, and the offense wasn't. The offense flat out wasn't good.
Yep.
For me, as we open those playoffs, like in the AFC, Baltimore is the team I would watch as the one that could unseat the Chiefs. Stating right up front, again for the 18,000th time, anybody but the Chiefs, please. In the NFC, the Lions are so damn good. I thought the Vikings could give them a lot of trouble, and
yeah, that was shocking.
Yeah, I mean,
what about Philly? That's how I am. I'm like that for the whole NFC. I don't know in the playoffs, really. I think it's wide open on both sides, really.
See, to me, it's Detroit or Philly. In the NFC and the AFC, you can make a case for the top 3 seeds.
Yeah.
Because Buffalo ball, it's a shame. Hey. Part of the reason why I wanted Buffalo to get a number 1 seed, sorry, Dolphins fans, was so to avoid those 2 teams knocking each other off in the second round, where Casey only has to face one of those, because I don't want Casey in the Super Bowl again, because I'm tired of that. So to me, it's the top 3 seeds in the AFC, and I think in the NFC, Minnesota, even though they have one of the best records, I'm sorry, I still don't trust Sam Darnold, and certainly nothing I saw on Sunday night would convince me otherwise.
Hey, let me ask you this real quick. Is it possible for Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen to both have a successful playoff? Because to me, they both got to get to the Super Bowl, right? And Josh Allen, you've almost got to go through Kansas City. Well, it'll be better for Buffalo if you don't see Kansas City, but to just get that piano off your back. But to me, both Josh and Lamar cannot both be successful. Only one can, because they both have to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but I think there's more on Lamar Jackson this year, and I'll tell you why, is because he doesn't have that signature playoff performance. And yes, I'm going to harp back to it, but Josh Allen against Kansas City, I think it was 2021,
the
13-second game,
right?
To me, immediately right off the bat, you shut off all conversation about Josh Allen not being able to play in the playoffs, because he was stupid good that game, and they just gagged it defensively.
Yep.
So
you're right.
Lamar Jackson does not have that kind of signature performance in the playoffs. The closest was against Houston last year, but that was in their first round, and it was Houston. So I think there's more on him in terms of pressure to, stamp yourself as that. And the other part is, okay, this is the end of the regular season. You have an MVP vote. Who's your MVP?
Boy, I'm probably going Josh. You did this without Stephon Diggs. You just carried that team. You absolutely carried that team. Lamar, I hate to punish you for having Derrick Henry, but that's just a weapon that you can't ignore. I got to go with Josh.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's like I hate to punish you for having Derrick Henry, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's not a Lamar Jackson fatigue. It's not all that. I mean, he might have been better this year than he was last year. He was completely ridiculous. But having that absolute stud in the backfield with you, that kind of helps. Okay, last thing before we leave, got to talk about your column about discipline.
Yes.
What would you like to say about discipline?
Yeah, here's what I have to
On
say about it.
Sentinel.com. Sorry, Perk.
No, no. It's they need leadership in that locker room. I like that locker room. I've said many times it's one of the favorite locker rooms that I've ever covered. It's got a very low knucklehead factor. At the same time, their motivations are all messed up. They are motivated by contract extensions and social media likes and touchdown celebrations, and not for doing the dirty work that it requires to get victories in this league. Here's the other thing that somebody asked me in the Dolphins Online Q&A. Isn't being late a sign of disrespect toward Mike McDaniel? And I thought, nah, that's just being irresponsible. But the more I thought about it, it kind of is. It's like Mike McDaniel has bent over backwards for you guys. He doesn't rip you publicly. He believes in player empowerment, and this is how you thank him, by being continually late. Like, you are disrespecting him. You're taking advantage of his good nature. You're also disrespecting the game. Respect the game. Show up on time for your meetings. Be there 2 minutes early. Like, these are all things that, discipline matters and details matter and respect for the game matters and respect for rules matters. And although they're not directly related, I do think that we see the examples of all of this stuff in the outcome of games. It's why you finish 8-9 and have to go on the road in the playoffs instead of hosting a playoff game. It's why you have these penalties at crucial times, why you fumble at crucial times. Pay attention to detail, respect the game, and maybe some of these things will turn.
Yeah, especially in the guys who are habitual offenders.
Yeah.
And to me, if they're guys who are not like significant to the team's success or very impactful, it'd be like, yeah, exactly, just like that. If you got frontline players, this is almost where I sick the leadership council, the veterans on them, talk to him, rip him a new one.
Right.
You have my blessing to do it,
Yeah, and I did say in my column that it's systemic failure of the player-appointed player field leadership council, the player-voted team captains. Like, who's running things here? Like and I said, I started off that column by saying I fear the locker room leadership when and if Teron and Calais aren't there next season. The power vacuum. I just don't want to see Tyreek Hill and Jalen Ramsey fill up more of it. And I don't say that as I think that they're bad guys. Those guys practice hard. They play hard. They set a great example from that standpoint, but they don't set the Teron Calais example of, come here, youngster, let me put my arm around you and counsel you. Let me show you guys why you show up at practice 10 minutes early. And all of that that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about with leadership.
I agree. And I just wanted on the record, Perk, you can put your arm around my shoulder and counsel me anytime you'd like. I need all the advice I can get.
Me too. That goes both ways.
All right. On that note, that's going to wrap it up. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. He is Chris Perkins, South Florida Sun Sentinel. Catch his fine work at sunsentinel.com. His Dolphins deep dive with Perk. What's the schedule during the off season, if I may ask?
We're going to inform people on social media. We'll probably do one either right before or right after the Senior Bowl. We have not decided yet.
Outstanding. Okay, and you can catch my written content at MiamiDolphinsOnSI.com for free. And obviously catch me here on the All Dolphins podcast. That's going to wrap it up. I'm going to be back here on Friday. We're going to be joined by ESPN radio talk show host Ken LaVicka. I know you missed him on the live post game recaps, so he's going to make it up to me by showing up on Friday. In the meantime, have a great rest of your Thursday.